T. Walker here, Walker Wine Session number 13. The wine of the day, Seghesio Family Vineyards. Their 2020 Sonoma County Zinfandel. I'm going to open that up, as you can see. And we're going to try it right out of the bottle. I just got back from a brief trip to Italy. 4 or 5 days. Lovely time. I was there for an event called Mangialonga, where you hike through the vineyards a little bit and taste wine and eat specialty local dishes. So not too shabby. This cork is in there pretty well. Seghesio Zen 2020. This is their mainstay Zinfandel that is somewhere around the $20 price point in my market in Florida. And they are celebrating their 125th anniversary this year, so a pretty long-standing vineyard. It's got a hearty alcohol of 15%, so it should be nice and ripe. Throw that in the trash bin. I got a little cork in my wine. No harm, no foul. So 90%, 86% Zinfandel. There's actually 10% Petit Syrah, and then a little bit of Alicante Bouchette, 2%, and then 2% of mixed reds, as they say, quote unquote. So whatever was floating around went into it. This vintage, they've actually got on their website really good tasting notes and information about the vintage. Also, Seghesio did a great job with that, so I recommend checking out their website. And I really do enjoy that as a wine lover myself. That Ridge Winery is one of my favorite wineries, and they do a great job as well at giving you technical notes and also just kind of letting you know a little bit about what that vintage was like. So this year was kind of, I don't know, in California, I don't think any of them are normal anymore, but cold start to the year. They got about half their normal rainfall. They had frosts, so the yields were down, and then they had fires in 2020 that were pretty bad. So they actually talk about how they managed that in the cellar, which is kind of cool, and kind of limited other than selecting or not selecting fruit that had smoke taint, is what they call it, where the grapes, the skins themselves actually will take in that smoke flavor, and your wine will be more or less ruined because it'll just taste like smoke. That they selected really well, and then they also in the winery changed their techniques to where they really limited the exposure of the wine, the fermenting wine, with the just surrounding air, with their kind of their daily maceration, pump over techniques, etc. So they were they talk about that in there. I think they do a great job at kind of educating the customer on the wine side. So I've seen this wine. I must have had it at some point in time, but I've seen this wine for the last 3, 4, 5 years. It's almost always at Costco where I am, and other places as well. And what they talk about often is that I think this wine for the last 10 years, maybe longer, but has gotten 90 points or more from some, maybe Spectator or somebody, but I think it was the same periodical editor or wine critic. And I never, for some reason, I never bought it, but I really enjoy Zinfandel, kind of America's grape, also known as Primitivo in Italy, and also known as Kroljenak or something along those lines from Croatia, which I have not had any Croatian Zinfandel or Kroljenak If you just say it really fast, no one will know what Krillianek is. But I think it's known as America's grape. I'm sure by far grow the most of it in the world. And yeah, looking forward to this. So I've kind of bypassed on buying it for some reason or other, but I don't know, a month ago or so I saw it in the store and said it's time. So 2020 vintage, looking forward to this Zin. Off the bat, I've got a pretty wide, if you can see that, a wide rimmed glass here. Because of the alcohol, I wouldn't want anything that's too tapered up top that comes together. That's going to concentrate, yes, the flavors, but also the alcohol that comes off of it. So you do kind of want a more open glass that's going to allow that alcohol to kind of come out and diffuse easily. So it's not too concentrated on the nose. I don't per se get any smokiness right now. The wine I think is still a little tight, so I'll definitely probably circle back. I'm gonna have dinner in a little bit, so I'll circle back in 20 or 30 minutes and see how it's opened up. Very much dark fruits, kind of like dark black cherry Bing, almost Bing cherry or black cherry compote. I actually made some of that the other day with all the cherries in season. It's slightly reduced, so that reduction of the wine as opposed to like oxidation, but that reduction kind of for me lends this slightly kind of after like someone would screech out on and burning rubber on their tires and do a bunch of donuts in a parking lot. That kind of smell you get, just a little bit of rubber, kind of hot rubber, if you will. But pretty color. And also kind of a fun fact too, Alicante Bouchette, it is a cross between Grenache, which is a very well-known variety, and Petite Bouchette. It was a breed that was made by a Mr. or Dr. possibly Bouchette in France. And Alicante Bouchette is really interesting because it's one of the very few grapes in the world that they call a teinturier, Teinturier, teinturier variety, which is that the skin on the outside is red, but on the inside, the juice is also red, which is very rare. Every grape variety that you can name other than a few are all clear juice on the inside, and then if it's a red variety or a dark skinned grape, then all of that color that you get in a Cabernet Sauvignon, it comes from the juice, the clear juice sitting on the skins, the Cabernet skins. That's where it's picking up the color. So it's kind of a unique thing. There's another variety called Saperavi from Georgia, not the state Georgia, but the country Georgia, south of Russia, and kind of east and a little north of Turkey. And sorry, pardon my sniffles or itch. Saperavi, I've had actually a really phenomenal wine from New York State of Saperavi, and it is also one of these teinturier varieties, so red juice on the inside, which is really neat. It makes for a very inky colored wine. Almost like blood red. So there's just 2% in this, so not a whole lot. They grew a lot of this Alicante Bouchette back in the day. It's a very high yielding variety, so lots of fruit yield. It's definitely starting to open up these kind of pretty floral, what would that be? There's also actually, oddly enough, there's a very like grapey flavor as well. I don't say that too often, but there's a touch of a Welch's grape juice note going on. But I feel like the alcohol is kind of blowing off. The coolness of the wine is kind of coming out. That's really the only way I know how to describe it, but let's give it a whirl. And that's my first sip of wine for the day, or alcohol. So I'll definitely want to take another sip before I give you any legitimate thoughts on it. You definitely scent a little bit of the alcohol for sure. I don't think it's anything that's abrasive or in the way, but I wouldn't want it to be any more prominent than it is at the moment. And I could have chilled this wine down a little bit. It's just at my room temp at probably 76 degrees or something. So it could be a little bit cooler for sure to be enjoyed in that kind of upper 60s maybe. Very soft, very silky, low tannins. They have the pH and TA, the acid specs, and I think the pH is about 3.8 if I remember that correctly. So don't quote me, but it's in the kind of mid to higher threes. So it's a very soft wine, low tannin. Kind of dark cranberry. There's a little like a little blueberry fruit, definitely fruit driven, with that slight reduction kind of hanging on, that just touch of rubber tire. Very juicy. Pretty round in the mouth, silky. I would say most of the flavor is kind of in that mid palate. It kind of fills in there, and then the finish is kind of a little bit, not light, but it thins out a little bit on the finish. I know that they put about 10 or 15% of this into once used, I believe, American oak barrels. And then the rest of it, so 85 or 90%, went into neutral barrels. So barrels that have been used 3-4 times to where they're not going to impart a whole lot of flavor. Let's give it one more taste, and I'm going to give it a little bit of time. I think it needs a few minutes, if not certainly maybe a half an hour or something like that to open up. So I'm going to taste this when we come back with the same glass sitting there, because if I poured more in, then that's still going to not be very opened up because it's coming from the bottle. So I'll leave this in here, and I'll revisit the same glass in just a little bit. Kind of a sanguine, kind of bloody, iron rich kind of characteristic there that I like. At the moment, nothing that's blowing my socks off. It's somewhat kind of one-dimensional, or maybe primary in its better way to describe it. Primary in its approach. A multitude of fruits, but not particularly many layers to the wine at the moment. So hopefully it'll open up in a little bit, and we will see how it goes. I'll see you in just a few. All right. So about 45 minutes or so later, let's see what we got here. Obviously the nose is, it's kind of deepened a little bit, but no big changes yet. I feel like the wine is just a little closed off, maybe a little muddled. You just kind of have this mixture of fruit component. It's kind of like if you took all the berries and fruits together and just smushed them together. I feel like the palate it's kind of definitely seems to be a little bit more integrated at the moment on the palate. Kind of getting a touch of this vanilla that I think helps to give a backbone to the fruit that's there. It's a little dusty, kind of dusty. I don't know about cocoa, but maybe light cocoa tannin kind of deal. It'll be interesting to see over the next few days how this opens up. I'll probably drink a little bit, maybe if not tomorrow, Monday and Tuesday, and probably throw it in the fridge and then revisit. At the moment, it's I'm not particularly I'm not disappointed in the wine, but it's not doing a whole lot for me. I'd like to see maybe another vintage of this. Maybe their descriptors were extremely favorable for the 2020 vintage. And maybe it wasn't fully there for me at this moment, at least. So you never know. Wines are constantly evolving in bottle, and so I'll look forward to tasting this over the next couple days. And if there's any kind of major change, I'll make a note of it. Yeah, not a bad buy from Seghesio, but I won't rush to buy another bottle by any means. Around $20 or so. I think I'll probably go elsewhere next time, whether I'm looking for Zen or something kind of big and jammy and fruity like this. I'm kind of desiring a little bit more structure to the wine and just some more clarity in it. It's just kind of muddled. It's all over the place a little bit. Just the fruit components are difficult to really identify. It's just a little bit of everything, and I'm not getting much other than that fruit component. So for me, just missing the mark a little bit today, but that's okay. I know that they make great wines and they're very consistent, and they make a slew of other Zinfandels and other wines. So I'd love to try those. I'm sure they're fantastic, and look forward to hopefully seeing those at some point in time. But that is a wrap on this Zinfandel 2020. I will be back with y'all shortly. I'm looking behind me at what I've got on the shelf, possibly a Monastrell from Spain or Pinot Noir, I think, from California. Those would be the two up next, or maybe a Washington cab blend that I'm really looking forward to from a winery that I used to work for. So post any comments. If you liked it, give me a like. And yeah, I think at some point in the near future, I'm going to start trying to do somewhat of an educational series, whether it's peppered in or a bunch in a row. But I kind of want to figure out exactly where I'd like to start with that, how it's broken down, whether it's by region or varietal, or maybe kind of an overall structural component of the wines, and breaking those down, and then just talking about how different wines of the world maybe exemplify those structures. So I think that's kind of how I'd like to start the educational stuff, because I think it's just so valuable that I can talk about Zinfandel and how this relates to me, but I really like to talk about how we're all what comprises a wine, and those components, and how they interact with our body, and therefore what we can go looking for when we go out to a store and are looking for wines that are going to suit our palate, or maybe suit what we're going to eat, or as a gift for somebody else, what's going to suit somebody else's palate, because it's always lovely to serve. So thanks for joining me, and we'll see you soon. Ciao. Little black tea, little black tea. There you go.